Hi, I'm Marty Levinson, and welcome to the Northtown News Magazine.
Hi, I'm Marty Levinson. Welcome to the Northtown News Magazine.
Hi, I'm Marty Levinson, and welcome to the Northtown News Magazine.
For the identity of the real Marty Levinson, please stay tuned for the Northtown News Magazine.
Come on, baby, don't you wanna go? Come on, baby, don't you wanna go? Back to that lemon light city, sweet home Chicago.
Hi, I'm Marty Levinson. Welcome to the Northtown News Magazine show of shows with your greatest cameraman around, Sonny Hirsch, and your host, Avi Myers.
Thank you, Marty. Avi Myers, Northtown Neighborhood News Magazine, a presentation of Sonny Hirsch and myself. And now that, thank God, the election is over, we're able to get to the real things that are going on in life. And once upon a time, in a place far, far away, well, actually, we used to film then maybe at Warren Park or Devon Bank, and then later at the house. We used to get lots and lots of police officers on the show. And it was so cool. We would not only get the local commander and a lieutenant and sergeants and things, but we even did a show where we had like the beat cops come on. And not just the beat cops, but Donnie Holman was here with the whole 12 sector, you know, shift 1, shift 2, shift 3. So we actually had all the officers that represented this particular beat 24 hours a day. Right. And it was something that we really learned from. And one of the people who was so instrumental in helping me, actually the person who was the most instrumental in helping get these people on the show, and somebody we're privileged to know, who is now retired from his lofty spot as Deputy Chief of the Chicago Police Department, Bruce Rottner. How you doing?
Great, Avi. Thanks for having me here.
First of all, thank you, and it's always a pleasure to see you. And you're back to teaching, I understand.
Yes, I'm teaching part-time. I'm an adjunct professor, if you will, at the city colleges. I'm teaching police organization and management, and I'm teaching an intro to investigation class, you know. The good news is the kids know less about it than I do, so so we can kind of fool them. But no, I really enjoy doing it, and you know, certainly I'm not doing it for the money, and don't anyone take that the wrong way. But I just enjoy doing it. It's a lot of fun.
By the way, I actually had an opportunity a million years ago to become a professor at the city colleges, and I saw the salary schedule.
Yeah.
And I decided I was going to stick with journalism.
Yeah, it comes down with all the preparation, with everything you do, it comes down to about $4 an hour. But like I say, if you're doing it for the money, and that's mostly everybody in the teaching profession. You know, my wife had been a teacher many years ago. My daughter was a teacher up in Wilmette, and you know, compared to other people, yeah, they're doing okay. But I think teachers are terribly underpaid. I really do for everything they do for our children. So
they really are. I mean, when I take a look at some of the salary, and I'm not going to point my finger at any, when I take a look at some of the salaries in the city and what some of the people get,
sure.
I mean, a good teacher makes such a difference in society.
Absolutely, no question about it. No question about it.
So, at any particular college you're teaching at, do they move you around, or?
Yeah, I was at Harold Washington. I'm now actually at Olive Harvey, which is at 103rd and Bishop Ford, and so it's 30.2 miles from my home. I live now in Skokie, so it's a 60-mile round trip. And if you ask me why the heck are you going out there, it's because they called and wanted me out there. They had an opening out there for this course, for a couple of courses. And you know what? And the people that I teach aren't really children. They're not young kids. They're not 18-year-olds fresh out of high school. Most of them, they're in their 20s and 30s. I have 60-year-olds in there. They've got families. They've all got jobs, careers, doing other things. But they're trying to get a 2-year degree at a city college, and many of them will hopefully go on to a 4-year school. So, you know, it's all good. You know, it's all good. I really enjoy it.
Yeah, I'm a graduate of Mayfair, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, right, sure, right.
So, no, I really enjoyed it. That was a good school. Do you still keep your hand in the police thing at all? Or are you still friendly with? Go ahead.
Yeah, I do. In fact, yesterday I had lunch with Commander Waldera, the commander of the 24th
Like
District.
him a lot.
Great guy. Tom Waldera was our area gang lieutenant when I was still working. Tom and I made a lieutenant together back in 2001. Just a really, really quality individual. Smart, uses a lot of common sense. He gets it. He understands. He jumped right in here in the 24th District. In fact, I really wasn't meaning to grill him yesterday, but I was asking him, have you talked to Avi Myers? Have you talked to Zara Quadri? Have you talked? And he knew them all. He knew everybody. He knew, does his homework, very smart guy. Didn't make a tremendous amount of changes in the district, which is really the sign of a good leader, someone who doesn't change things just to change things. He kept Bob Kane as his community policing sergeant, Paul Kaczynski as the tactical lieutenant. So, like I say, really a smart guy, a guy willing to do the work, a guy willing to work 14, 16 hours a day. And he has children himself, but those are the sacrifices that we make, to serve the citizens of Chicago, and to make sure our police officers are doing what they're supposed to be doing, and primarily to make sure our police officers are safe out there. So Tom has been in mostly all operational units his whole career. He was a tactical sergeant, tactical officer. He was a gang sergeant. So he was really a good fit for this district. He understands the operational end. He's learning the administrative end, but he has a lot of good people to help him with that. And Tom's the type of commander who will do more with less. He knows how to use his resources, where to put them. And I know even from when I was still working, he was always a strong advocate of community policing.
No question. And he's very enthusiastic about what he's doing, too, and I really like that.
Yes.
It's kind of infectious when you see somebody really enjoying what they're doing. And
Yeah, he gets very excited about things, and that shows, He gets very animated, but it's delightful to see someone like that who really does, who sometimes wears their heart on their sleeve a little bit. Tom is very passionate about a lot of things. And, sometimes you get these positions, these jobs, and, you're supposed to be all serious and all. And Tom's not like that. Tom is he's real. And if he's passionate about something, you can tell he's passionate about it.
No, definitely. Definitely. So, are there a lot of police functions you still go to? Are you at Commander Roussel's retirement? I think you were.
No, I wasn't able to be there. I actually called Jim Roussel about a week later. I had another commitment and told him, that I was sorry I couldn't be there. And Jim and I actually made sergeant together back in 1988. And Jim was actually this close to being our tactical lieutenant up there. Back when I took command in 2005, our tactical lieutenant was Mike Fitzgerald, and Mike only had a year to go before he retired. So about 8 months into that year, I started calling people up to ask them if they would come to 24 to be the tactical lieutenant, which, pardon me, at one time, was like really a plum job. But most of the guys I called already had plum jobs, so they didn't want to come to a district. And I called a Lieutenant Mark Amati, who became a good friend of mine, and Mark is now in the 20th District. Back then, he was a brand new lieutenant. He was a little unsure about coming, so I was actually dialing Jim Roussel's phone number. Jim had just become a lieutenant as well. And Mark called me back on my other line and said he would be interested in taking it, And Mark did become our TAC lieutenant up here for about 3 years and did a fantastic job, So, like I said, I never worked professionally with Jimmy, but he always had just a wonderful reputation as a leader, as a police officer. I believe he's a lieutenant colonel in the reserves.
Yeah.
He did 3 tours in Iraq and Afghanistan. So again, a real leader. And
he was also in charge of drones for a while.
Yes, he was. Yeah, there's probably a lot of things he was in charge with. We'll never find out about, But really a great guy,
It's funny because I always meant to ask him this, And he is a great guy, and he's got such an incredible tactical mind. You know, you can really see it clicking, and,
Sure.
and you know, he's able to make everybody feel special, too, which is kind of a rare trait.
Sure, he really did. Fit in very well here.
We were talking, and we were just talking past history and politics, because he's really got an amazing worldview, and he's really got a knowledge of history.
Yes.
And we were both at the downtown Nazi March with Frank Collin in the mid-'70s.
Right.
And, I mean, I was there from one side. I was actually there as a reporter covering Mayor Kahana and Company.
Oh, right, sure.
And
Americana.
he was there as a tactical officer.
Right, in the 70s, right. Jimmy would have been a tactical officer back then, you know.
And it's funny, I kept, you know, I don't know if he recognized me. I don't know that I recognize him, and everybody looks a little different after all these years. But I could swear I was in a van he pulled over.
Very possible, Avi, you know, so.
By the way, I'll tell you that story off the air because
Okay.
that could still get me in trouble.
Statute of limitations hasn't run out yet, huh?
Well, the statute of limitations probably has run out, but there's some things that are better left off here, as
Absolutely,
you all know.
I agree with you.
Yeah, no, we're trying to give people a nice picture of what's happening now in today's world, as opposed to interesting side stories from, you know, the Nazi March of the 70s.
Right.
So, if you were, well, I was about to say if you were police commander, what would you change? But that's a thankless question and a thankless job. But what would you look into?
Well, as we were discussing before the show began, you know, one of the things that I teach in my police organization and management course is community policing. It's one thing, which was really a strategy began in the 90s and really into the 2000s and in the 21st century. However, in a lot of cities that went to a community policing strategy, that strategy has now become something else. In other words, community policing has waned in a lot of places. And it was due to a lot of different factors. Certainly the economy contributed to that. Municipalities didn't have the dollars to pour into community policing that they did in the 90s, as we did. We sunk a lot of money into it. Things were good then, which meant with the economy tanking the way it did, less resources, police departments were hiring less police officers. We didn't have as many officers to devote to community policing. And again, you have to think globally when you talk about this. In Chicago, I think we laid a really strong foundation in many parts of the city, and because of my experience in Rogers Park and West Rogers Park and Edgewater, I really think that, and I'm sure there's some who may dispute this, but I think we laid the strongest foundation for community policing right here. And the proof is in the pudding, because community policing is still going very strong up here.
Oh, yeah.
In West Rogers Park, again, in Rogers Park, in Edgewater, where in other parts of the city, I really know that it just really isn't. And that's not to be, disrespectful to other parts of the city. It's just to say that their priorities may have changed, based on the changes in their community. I'm glad, although I no longer live in the city, I'm just thrilled to see that community policing is still going strong up here. It's kind of like a child you have and watch them grow up and blossom. And it really had nothing to do with me. It had to do with people like you and like Sonny.
Well, actually, you had a
people,
lot to do with it.
Well, but you guys were all volunteers, volunteers can walk away from something anytime, but you chose not to. And if that hadn't happened, we wouldn't have community policing. So, I've always been grateful to the people that volunteer to do this, who do it on their own time, who don't get paid anything, to do it, but do it just to make their communities a little bit better.
Well, thanks. But, I'll tell you something. You made one of the truly key decisions that I think really reinforced the whole thing. And that was getting Steve and Hank involved.
Again, Steve
Cohn and Hank Jacob.
And Hank Jacob, really my go-to guys, two wonderful police officers, two rock'em sock'em tactical guys for many years, and then they decided to help us out in community relations when I was actually a sergeant, and then when I became commander, they came on board. I sent them to every meeting. When I became an area deputy chief, they went to every meeting in the area, everything from Fullerton Avenue north of the city limits. And that's how I got feedback, and I was able to talk to commanders about strategies they were using or problems that I saw maybe down the line for them that they could, pick off right then and there without, anything being generated negatively. So Steve and Hank were just, and you know what, and again, that was a victim of the economy. Unfortunately, deputy chiefs today can't have 2 night officers going to all the meetings. The manpower is just not there. They're using it in a different way, But that helped lay that foundation, which is still strong today.
Yeah, no question. And I still see people from way back when that, have those memories. I mean, some people drop in and out, depending. I mean, at one time we actually had officers from all the shifts at the meetings.
Sure.
And that became unaffordable. And, it's funny. I remember I was at Warren Park, and one of the officers, and, matter of fact, the first really outstanding female police officer I ever ran into, she thought about going to the meetings on her own. And then she thought about, do I really want to go somewhere where I'm just going to get yelled at for an hour for nothing?
Well, but the idea of community policing, and unfortunately there's officers who thought that way and who still think that way. The idea of community policing wasn't to have the officers sitting up in front and the citizens sitting here and the citizens yelling at the officers about things that the officers should have been doing. That's not what community policing is about. I always believed in sitting in the circle. You don't have to hold hands. You don't have to hug each other. But this way, everyone's on an equal par. When you set up a room in front and police here, citizens here, there's still that invisible wall, so to speak. And, and like I say, I'm not saying how anyone should run their community policing. All I'm saying is I strongly believed in that concept that everyone should sit together, that problems that there aren't the police problems, they're not the neighborhood problems, they're everybody's problems. And what can we do together to solve these problems? One of the basic tenets of community policing was that problems can be solved if everybody works together. And so, that's why I always used to shirk when I'd walk into a community policing meeting. I'd see the police sitting here with their arms like this and the citizens sitting here yelling about this, that, and the other. That's not the way it's supposed to work. And really, I saw that in a lot of other parts of the cities when I was an inspector. We didn't see too much of it in 24 because, you know why? We got it up here in 24,
Yeah. By the way, I always make it a point to stand near the back and be able to interact with people during the meeting. Because I find when I sit in on that front row, it's a whole different perspective, and I can't really see what's going on.
Well, I always stood in the back because when the fists started flying, I could just run right out. So. No, I mean, I initially, and I think Tom Waldeer, every commander, initially went to all the beat meetings, but then you don't really want to go anymore because you don't want to become the issue. In other words, everyone will turn to the commander about stuff. You want the beat officers to get involved. So that's why you really don't see commanders at beat meetings.
That's understandable. And matter of fact, I don't want to bring that one up on air. I was going to say, well, you know what? What are your thoughts about politicians showing up at the meetings?
Well, I think elected officials have every right to show up at meetings. And a lot of them do. I know all the aldermen here, Bernie Stone, Alderman Silverstein, Senator have all shown up. I mean, they're elected officials, and absolutely they have the right to be there. They just can't politic at those meetings. That's all. And most of them have been pretty good about it.
Yeah, I agree. In any event, Mickey's hands are kind of moving in that direction. So I want to thank you very much, Deputy Chief Bruce Rottner.
My pleasure.
Do you want to give people any contact information, or just let them find you on the web?
If you need to get a hold of me, get a hold of Avi, and he'll get a hold of me.
That'll work, definitely.
And I'm on Facebook too. So
yeah, no, that's how I get a hold of you. I don't have your email anymore, but
I'll
with
get it
Facebook,
to you. You'll have it before I leave.
Thanks. Anyway, thank you very much.